Jeannie, did you mean to have your hand raised?
All right, good evening, everyone. Just give a second to get everything populated and up to speed.
Hold on. Having a problem with the YouTube. Hold on.
Okay, hold on.
I'm gonna have you guys go ahead and start it. It's gonna take me a second to fix this problem, so YouTube's gonna have a little bit of a delay.
Okay. Mariana, do you want to make your announcement, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Patrick. Buenas noches. Vamos a tener la opción de escuchar este taller o esta audiencia de hoy en español, si ustedes lo desean, haciendo clic en un icono que dice interpretación. Y si están en sus teléfonos, pueden hacerlo tocando 3 puntitos en la parte de abajo del celular. Creo que eso es para iPhone, pero espero poder.
Sorry, I'm just getting the YouTube thing fixed.
No worries. Kelly, are you wanting to speak? You have your hand up.
Stream.
Okay, holding steady. Looks like we have 19 speakers tonight. 20
Can
speakers.
I recommend 2 minutes?
People's thoughts, board's thoughts on 2 minutes. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. 2 minutes it is. We have 21.
Yeah, 22. I have a public comment as well from an email.
Okay, let's cut it off. I think Ms. Hulamard is the last one that I see. Can we cut it off there, please?
David Carey is the last one on mine.
That works for me too.
Hold on. I got to take a picture because they move around. All right. And you're on a 2-minute clock. We're on, we're officially back on YouTube. Our first speaker is Nicoleta, followed by Carmen, Lily, Julie, and Gina. Just a friendly reminder, I'll bring you guys all into the room. Please don't unmute yourself until you're asked to do so. And Nicoleta, you have the floor, and I'll start the clock behind you. Nicoleta, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Can I begin?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so my name is Nicoleta Philpot, and I've been a teacher in the district for 10 years. In fact, I student taught here just before. I remember early in my career when I would tell people where I worked, and it was instantly envied by my recently credentialed peers, asking me to let them know if and when any positions came up. Other strangers I would meet would also praise the district and the school. Teachers lined up to work here. This past year, we had unfilled positions. No one even applied for a full-time chem or physics, I think for 2 years. Myself and other teachers in my department were emailing universities, letting them know we were hiring to try to send new graduates over, but no one came. The students in those classes were shuffled into other classes almost a month into the school year. Unfortunately, there's a different conversation that happens these days, and I wish it wasn't so. I know teachers that have left our district for other higher paying districts and counties adjacent to ours. I know some excellent teachers and staff that went on maternity leaves and never came back because childcare costs is so high that working to pay for it didn't make sense. Why work just so someone else can raise your kids? It's the reason I went part-time. I'm grateful for that, but I would not be able to afford to be entirely stay-at-home mom, as unlike their husbands, mine is a teacher also, so in Marin County. I looked it up just for fun. I think I would make about $15,000 more if I went to work in his district. However, when that opportunity was present years ago, I didn't even think about it. I was invested. I am invested in working here, and I love working here. I enjoy my colleagues, and we really are like another family. It's great, but at some point that might not be enough to remain loyal. However, a decent competitive wage will be. This is what attracts and retains good quality teachers. The district needs to have a long-term perspective on this topic. We've been falling further and further below the state average. The deficit grows annually. For some of us, the $2,000 stipend negotiated for the additional responsibilities around advisory.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker is Carmen Sinjanati. I butchered her name. Carmen, could you go ahead and unmute yourself?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, this is Carmen Sinajani, president of the Bandwagon, the nonprofit organization that supports West County Band and Orchestra program. I'm here to report on all the wonderful things happening with our program. This month, students performed at the Green Center as part of SSU's Wind Invitational, where bands performed before adjudicators and participated in a clinic. On campus, band director Casey Jones hosted a guest speaker to conduct mindful workshops. Older students mentored younger students with the Big Littles program, and just today celebrated an after-school event for that. On February 26th, we hosted a pasta and music fundraiser out at the Monorail Roadhouse. This fun event served both to raise money and also offer an opportunity for students to showcase their talents and raise community awareness about our program. We are also getting ready for our most visible event, the Apple Blossom Parade, and we continue to explore doing other similar community outreach events. On May 20th, we have our spring concert, and we will cap off this great year with our annual graduation performance. Last but not least, the Bandwagon is now exploring bringing back the old Disneyland trip. I don't know about you, but if you were in band, it was my most memorable event while attending this high school. So we're excited to look into bringing that back as a way to help attract and retain members of our band. So that's my quick report. Thank you so much for all that the board does to support the music program at West County High. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Lily. You have the floor.
Hi, everyone. This is Lily Medshammer. I'm the president of the Teachers Association, and I've taught Spanish and English learners in the district for 15 years. Carmen's right. The band program in our school is amazing. It's a huge draw. And we need Casey to stick around. He's a young teacher. He has to have roommates and find a place to rent every year, and we need to be able to retain him. I want to discuss just one example of why we have a dire need to raise wages in West County. Many people don't know that the Sonoma County Office of Education employs its own teachers and serves students. I just got word that they've offered their teachers a raise of 8%, 8%, and another 8%. That's 24%. More actually, when you take into account how raises build upon each other. How far behind is our salary? 23% below state average for high school districts. And that figure comes from 2-year-old comparison. So in that time, we have slid further and the gap has grown larger than 23%. Now, the current plan is to take back our adult education students from SCO. Who do you think you'll recruit to teach them? Administrators often hope that it's going to be the teachers and the paraeducators from SCO who come with those students. But do you think they will come to us with their competitive salaries and leave to work under our contract? And let's not forget the paraeducators who lift programs like this. Ours make $16 to $20 an hour. My 17-year-old makes $18 an hour pouring coffee. Our salaries are out of date and costing our students and community. Authorize a raise this Friday. Thank you.
Next speaker is Julie.
Hi, good evening. My name is Julie McClellan, and I'm speaking on behalf of our CSCA unit. We had our first negotiations meeting this week where we discussed our openers and have planned our next 2 meetings for this spring. We understand the district is required to budget conservatively, but the budget always comes back safe and with enough funds to pay for a fair raise for our members. Now is the time to correct wages so that our current employees aren't paid far less than new employees who are being paid for with grant monies or by other organizations at a much higher wage. We want our district to thrive, and to do that, fair wages must be paid to all. Our district currently spends 9% of its budget on classified employees, while the statewide average is 13.6% for the same group of employees. That's 9% in ours, 13.6% across the state. This makes the employees feel overlooked and invisible while we are completing our tasks, duties, and roles with students in a professional manner. Save our district from the great resignation by making progress in our wages and work conditions to keep us competitive in this new job market we find ourselves in. We need to compensate our people so that we can hang on to our skilled and seasoned employees, to not become a district with a revolving door due to low wages. I'm asking you to direct the district negotiation team to do what's right by our approximately 54 loyal classified employees. Thank you. I also have a statement from someone who's working a second job tonight, who's in the consortium. Let me see if I can grab that really quick to read the beginning of her statement. Her name is Grace Kirk. She says, my name is Grace Kirk.
Actually, I have Grace's comment already.
Do you? Great.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Gina, followed by Amanda Reese, Sasha Rose, Junie Curtis, Marcio, and then Randy Hall. Gina, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gina, attendance clerk at West County High. I am aware that CSEA and the district are in negotiations, but haven't agreed to a salary increase as of yet. Looking at our salary schedule, I realized that two of our new positions this year will top out at nearly $7 more an hour than what I make for doing similar duties. They make more than all of our office staff, as well as custodians, campus supervisors, librarian, and many more. Work-based learning coordinator and family engagement facilitator are new, and among some of the positions that are paid by grants and our positions that are contracted out and are paid double of the amount than those of us who are already employed. If we got paid a living, healthy wage, we could entice employment to our district. For this reason, I don't think they need to make less. In fact, I think the rest of us need to make much more. This is a great example of how far we have fallen from the reality of our wages should be in our area. If we can afford to pay out a superintendent and afford interims until we hire a new one to finish off Tony's term, you most definitely can afford those of us who on a daily basis run the school, those of us who make the kids our priority, support our teachers and admin, those who feed, those who clean, those who handle parents and families and go above and beyond our job title on a regular basis. When you all say you appreciate us, please appreciate us with a significant raise, not with an apple, a pen, or a piece of gum. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Amanda. This is also a friendly reminder. Don't unmute yourself until I ask you to unmute yourself. And if you could help me by lowering your hand when you're done speaking, I would greatly appreciate it. Amanda, you have the floor.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, my name is Amanda Reese, and I'm a speech language pathologist in the district, and I've worked here for 8 years. 3 years ago, the district said that there was no money in the budget for teacher raises. Teachers looked at the budget and said, yes, there is money for teacher raises. Fact finding came in and concluded that, yes, there was in fact money for teacher raises. The teachers walked the strike line for 3 days, and after the 3 days, there was money in the budget for teacher raises. Fast forward to today, different year, same message. There's no money in the budget for teacher raises. I am unwilling to accept this tired and false narrative from the past. In this district, we're desperately trying to hold on to our specialists. With unfilled positions, we need to recruit more and certainly cannot afford to lose any current professionals, including speech therapists, school psychologists, and nurses. Retaining and recruiting talented staff is difficult to accomplish when this district's response to the hard work of their educators is a 0% raise. It's demoralizing and it's unacceptable. Our above average staff deserve better than below average pay. Please return to the bargaining table with a command of the facts and an understanding of our budget and a willingness to compensate your teachers appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Sasha Rose. You have the floor.
Hi, my name is Sasha Rose, and I'm speaking in this forum to request the return to in-person board meetings with a Zoom option. Sounds like some parents want that, but basically parents who chose not to participate in making a certain medical decision were refused entry to the board meetings when they were in person. So I would ask that you return to the in-person board meetings so you can actually see the community that you're serving, they can see you, and that you don't discriminate against anyone who wants to attend a board meeting and have their voice heard. Every single parent in this community deserves to have their voice heard, regardless if they have an unpopular opinion. This is what we teach our students. This is the equality. This is the justice for all that we're supposed to be modeling for our teens. And so there's many, many parents that are talking about a desire to return to in-person board meetings. I'm just wondering where the board is at with that. What is your plan? Last time you were wanting to do all kinds of surveys and talk about it and didn't know what to do. And I would really urge you to make a decision immediately that the next board meeting is in person with no discrimination against any parent who has a child going to this school. Thank you.
Next speaker is Junie, followed by Marcio.
Good evening, Junie Curtis, Spanish teacher. On a positive note, I'm here to talk about the kids. We've had a really amazing Spanish 1 class this year, and the students have been having a lot of fun in class. I've been enjoying getting to know them. Today, they learned to order burritos in Spanish and all the vocabulary that goes into that. Here's the bad part. Next year, the Spanish 2 teacher that should be taking up their cause and continuing with them will be leaving the district because the wages are just so low. The same thing happened the year before. Noemi went to Calistoga for a $30,000 a year raise. And I realized that that's a huge difference for a young family, just somebody trying to make it. So it's those Spanish 2 students next year, our students, my kids, that I really worry about. Are they going to be with somebody who's a teacher that's barely making it, 50 grand, trying to pay for, that wage that's really hard to be the dignified professional in front of a classroom of 35 kids when you're worried about whether you can afford to pay for gas to get to work. And so anyway, you know the score. Let's look out for the kids. I love you guys. Thank you for being on the board. Let's look out for them. Thanks.
Next speaker is Marquio.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I'm getting a lot of feedback.
That should have fixed it.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Marico Wesley. I'm both a parent and a teacher in the district. Some of the wonderful people who have spoken tonight are have been teachers of my kids over the years. I cannot pay off my student loans. I can't buy a house. I don't have a savings account. I have one. It has $1.19 in it right now. I haven't been on a vacation in 20 years that wasn't financed by somebody else. I'm close to overdrawn or overdrawn most months. I have no sense of security. A few years ago, when my husband became ill, I went to the food bank. I paid for our rent on credit cards. I was humiliated, but we could not live on my salary alone. I've had up to 6 side jobs at once. Despite this, I've been a faithful employee. I've invested my heart and soul into the work I do. I really love my job. I have 24 years of teaching at this district. When my husband was recently hired as a teacher in year 5 on the salary scale at a different district, he suddenly makes more than I do. Please keep our compensation fair so that quality educators stay in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Randy Hall, and followed by Casey Jones, Tori Penny, Kathy Thompson, assuming this is Rebecca Davenport, and Noemi Reyes. Randy, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Randy Hall, and I teach digital media and film at West County High School. This is my 5th year teaching in the district, and I have to say this year has been a real doozy. I wanted to call your attention to a disturbing list that crossed my inbox this last week. 1.0 FTE school counselor, 0.4 FTE ag teacher, 0.6 FTE PE teacher, 0.4 FTE academic support teacher, 2.0 FTE social science teachers, 1.0 FTE Spanish EL teacher, 1.0 FTE Spanish teacher, 1.0 FTE special education teacher for the 18 to 22 year class, 1.0 FTE special education teacher for the EDD class, 2.0 FTE English teachers, and a school nurse. This represents at least 12, possibly 13 staff members who will need to be hired by the district. These are job postings in a job market where other districts will be competing for these core subject areas and specialized skills as well, and paying better, sometimes much better. The board needs to understand that you can't claim to want to provide the best education for your students if you can't hire and retain the best educators for the jobs you have. The district claims there's no money for salary increases, while the state has provided huge increases in funding to the district using keywords such as cost of living adjustments. If there's no money for salary increases being budgeted, then who is receiving these cost of living adjustments? The board needs to understand that they are not helpless in this matter. You can investigate, you can demand answers, and we all need you to do better. Thank you.
Next speaker is Casey Jones, and this is just a friendly reminder again, if you could please lower your hands. A lot of you continue to raise your hands and I'm losing you. Casey, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I'm here to echo a few statements by my colleagues, but I love the school. I left Marin, I left Novato to come teach. This is the only job that I applied to leave there. It did pay more, but admittedly, Sonoma County's my speed. And I love this community. It's fantastic. I would at some point like to buy a house. I grew up in Healdsburg, and there's no way I'm going to buy a house there because I just saw a 2-bedroom go for $1.2 million. But I'm not asking for a raise of that much nearly. It's my understanding that housing prices the last year jumped 10%. I'm not a math teacher, so I'm not going to deal with numbers, but I just want to be able to have a living wage here. I love the community. The students are fantastic. My program has been hit hard by COVID because honestly, who wants to learn violin over the computer? I know it was difficult for me. And so I'm going to continue to do my best to support this music community in this wonderful area. And I hope that we all can do the same. And I think that's it. Thank you, folks. Please come to the musical in a few weeks. It's going to be fantastic. The students are absolutely wonderful. it feels near professional sometimes. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful night, and I yield my time.
Tori Penny, you have the floor. Oh.
My name is Tori Penny. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I understand that there are several teachers in this community that are struggling with wages. As a concerned parent, I'm worried about the kids that are struggling. Through 7th and 8th grade, my son maintained an AB average with the lowest of a 3.33. When online learning happened, he struggled. He wound up failing most of his classes. He got disenchanted with school, and he continues to struggle. When he reached out for help, the teachers would not help him. They said, you need to study harder. Well, he struggled with the computer. He couldn't do it. I propose that there is a program set up to assist these kids to get back on track and get caught up. When he went to his counselor suggested either go to Ridgeway or quit school and get a job. That's not what these kids need to hear. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Kathy Thompson.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Kathy Thompson, and I am a proud parent of 2 Annalee graduates. My husband went to Annalee in the 60s, and I've been working for the consortium in the high school district for many years. And I just want to say it's really heartbreaking for me to be able to have to speak to you again 2.5 years later about the same thing. Look, 3 years ago, Brian showed you the money was there for the salary increases. The fact finders said the same thing, and yet we still had to go out on strike. Brian's telling you the money is there. You need to believe him. He does the math. We have all been through trauma. These teachers, these kids, the administration, the board, everyone's been through trauma. It's been a really rough 3 years. We don't want to do this again. None of us want to do this again. When the state gives you money to pay your teachers, your assistants, your cafeteria workers, your janitors, give them the money. They're the ones that are caring for the children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Rebecca Davenport.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Rebecca Davenport. I'm a teacher, I'm a math teacher, and I'm also a parent of a student at West County High School. Our district has financial problems, and we understand that these are mostly due to declining student enrollment. There are 2 potential responses to this problem. One, which has been our tool of choice, is budget cuts. This led us to consolidating 2 high schools. The other potential response is to boost enrollment. And at the very least, we should be working hard to keep the students that we have. We can also accept more students from other districts who are drawn to West County High School for its community, great programs, strong academics, and sports. Teachers are the heart of a strong and successful school. When you invest in and keep good teachers, they can become great teachers. And these are the ones who draw students in and make them love school. If you want great teachers, you need to create conditions that are conducive to supporting great teachers and then keep them. It goes without saying that one of these conditions is to pay a salary that is competitive. I think the consolidation probably made our declining enrollment problem worse. I see a similar situation here. Sometimes you have to spend some money to make money. Investing in teachers is a smart investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Noemi Reyes, followed by Jamie, Steve Sumner, Mary Lou Saldana, Ellen Hulamard, Alex Wilson, and Naomi, you have the floor.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, good evening. My name is Noemi Reyes, and I graduated from Annalee in 2010. I was hired as a bilingual paraeducator while I was studying at Sonoma State. I then transitioned to teaching Spanish at the high school with a lot of support from the West County District and Annalee staff. It was a wonderful, supportive environment, but I couldn't stay. While I was working there, my husband and I were living at my parents', and we were desperate to find a place of our own. So when I decided to leave when I was recruited by another school district, it was a very difficult decision to make because I loved working at the West County community with incredible dedicated colleagues, which I've heard tonight. I experienced an immediate $30,000 jump in my salary after leaving. As much as I would have loved to stay, I couldn't. So I'm just here to say to give the staff the raise that they need and that they deserve so that students don't continue to see motivated, innovative teachers leave the district. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker is Mary Lou.
Yes. Hello?
Yes, you're here.
Oh, wonderful. I'm sorry. For some reason, I ended up getting unmuted. So this is Marilu Saldaña, school counselor. I did want to add a little bit to some of the comments that are being shared regarding wages, a fair increase for both actually classified and certificated. And when I mean educators, I mean counselors, outreach therapists, coordinators, secretaries, custodial staff, all of which are contributing direct service employees in the district to students and parents. My concern is seeing a common pattern of a revolving door. And it concerns me because during this critical time, it's so essential to do our best effort of maintaining the support services because our students need it. It's been the most challenging times, and our students need the stability and the structure to maintain longevity in this district. It's so important for our families and our parents to see the similar faces that they've known year after year. I do want to add, it concerns me with the long list of certificated staff regarding the spring recruitments that are happening in surrounding districts. There are bonuses that other districts are offering. And please, we need to come back to the table and offer both classified and certificated staff a reasonable, fair wage salary. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker is Jamie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jamie Malone, and I'm the department chair for academic support, and I teach in social science. I know we have a lot on our plates, but teachers' salaries are of utmost importance. First, I'll open my door so you can see my personal situation. It's not a pity cry, it's just the reality, so you understand what some of your employees are going through. I work 3 jobs to make ends meet. I work evenings and weekends after full days in the classroom, and I take on a full-time summer job to provide for my family. I do have 4 children and a 94-year-old grandmother that live with me, so my husband and I may have more to provide for than the average household. However, it's difficult to survive here in Sonoma County based on the income and salary of a teacher. I work hard. I really enjoy working hard, but I don't feel like I should be undervalued or embarrassed by my financial situation as a teacher. Second, we're in the business of education. It says online, the mission of West Sonoma County Union High School District is to provide high quality instruction as student achievement is our top priority. Education and students should be our priority. So who's implementing this mission? The teachers and staff. You can't have high quality instruction without high quality teachers. I'm sad to say I've personally seen a number of new teachers leaving or fired before the end of their first year because the district is not able to draw on experienced high quality teachers. Today on EdJoin, I saw 3 positions I could apply for to increase my salary if I was not committed to West County and my students. I tell you to look at your employees and your team and ask yourself, if we're in the business of education and our mission is to provide high quality education and instruction, can we do that without raising the salaries of our employees? And second, do we know, value, and reward the efforts of our team and our teachers? These are the best practices in business management. How is the management of our district going? Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Steve Sumner. Sorry, you have the floor. Steve, are you with us?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I apologize. I just wanted to say that I'm very proud of working in this district. I've been, this will be the end of my 28th year in this district. And it's a great school. We've always, schools, and we've always been stellar. And I just really feel for the younger teachers. I want to speak partly for them. They are the backbone. All teachers, staff, all classified employees, custodians, everyone is working so hard for the kids. And yet a young teacher looking at teaching in our district is looking at $15,000 to $20,000 less than other schools, high school districts. And I do want to point out we are a high school district. It's very specific. Secondly, I want to point out that, there's all kinds of details of money, but there is a surplus because of the housing that has gone up so much. The house next door to me sold for $100,000 over asking. I won't be able to live in this county for very long, and I don't see how a young person could. So I really feel for them, and I think there is something that can be done, which is to pay a wage that's an average for the state. I also want to say that it is frustrating. In all these years, this has been a pattern, and it's a tiresome pattern that in the spring, we don't have any money. That's what's stated. And then suddenly in the fall, there's an influx of money. I've been around long enough to know that partly that's due to timing of funds. So I ask you to look at that and to consider that we need to support the young talent, to keep them so that they can inspire our young kids and give them a good education and be the stellar school that we've set out to be. I think that was part of the consolidation ideal, was to have this really stellar district, which we are, but let's continue to be. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. And our next speaker is Ellen Hulamard, followed by our last four speakers, Alex Wilson, Joe Maloney, Jolene Johnson, David Carey, and then I have a comment from somebody who emailed one in. If you did not make the cutoff list, I'm sending you my email and you can send me your comments and I'll make sure they get to the board. Ellen, you have the floor.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm looking at an article right now from the U.S. News and World Report, and it says, though average teacher salary in the U.S. has increased over the last decade, when taking inflation into account, it has actually decreased by 4.5%, according to the new data. And if you've read the newspaper, you know that inflation has gone up 7.9% over last year. If we're talking about a 3% raise, even not talking about losing the stipend, we're talking about quite a cut in pay, actually. And I'm one of those people who surfs Zillow, even though I don't need to. And rent comes cheap at $3,000 a month. You guys are aware of that, right? I mean, right? So I am so committed to this district. My husband went here, all of his brothers. In fact, his brother is painted up in the mural up on top of the, that's now behind the West County mural up there. My kids went here, my niece and my nephew went here, and now I'm a teacher here and have been for 10 plus years now. I'm really committed to the district, and I really think if we are going to attract talent, we have to take into account inflation and how are we going to attract talent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Alex Wilson.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Alex Wilson. I'm a math teacher at West County. Forgive me for not having something really planned out to speak. I'm kind of off the cuff. I just got home from coaching a baseball game. And really, I got to be just honest. It's hard for me to believe, I'm a math teacher and numbers speak, that we're saying we consolidated and we have all this influx of COVID money and that there is no money to give teacher raises or other types of raises. It doesn't make sense to me. And you'd have to convince me otherwise. We talk about a big role of the district is to support the students. Well, supporting the students means supporting the teachers. They're not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. And my last point I want to have is that, you know, I'd really look for a contract that has 3 years where I can focus on 3 years of teaching rather than having to go year to year basis of thinking about, well, what am I going to do next year? How about we start not worrying about the money and the financials and start worrying about, like, how do we actually teach these kids? How do we work on the learning loss? What do we do to make our district attractive to other students moving forward? These year-to-year things isn't going to work anymore, and we need to really focus on the long-term longevity of this district. Thank you. I yield back.
Next speaker is Joe Maloney.
Thank you. My name's Joe Maloney. I'm in the wood shop at West County right now, and I want to speak more as a local business person, farmer. I'm heading up the North Bay Construction Corps, which is training high school seniors for local jobs in construction. And I also want to speak on the consolidation and how well the teachers have worked together. And from a parent who's had 4 sons go through the district and been extremely happy with how that's gone, I am extremely grateful that the quality of education, and I think Mary Lou alluded to it, the stability and structure and the high quality instruction that's being maintained is by far one of the priorities that the teachers have maintained. And as in construction, if you don't have that high quality instruction, you're going to lose out. I asked my kids, and I learned this about 30 years ago under somebody else, did you get 2% better today? And you should ask yourselves that, no matter who you are. Did you get better today? Two questions. Did you get 2% better? And what are you going to do to do that? I see that happening day in and day out at that school, at West County. They've got an incredible team at the top, and they've got an incredible team of teachers. And the other question is, where's the win-win? Kids want to know that all the time, and that's what we need to leave with. Where's the win-win? Thank you.
Thank you. Jolene Johnson, do you have the floor?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Jolene Johnson. I'm the dance director here at West County. And again, just reiterating what everyone has said, but my brother actually works in the Katati-Roanoke Park district, and he's on the strike line right now. And he's been calling me, asking me a bunch of questions. And he just puts things into perspective. You know, we're both teachers. He's trying to figure out where does he want to work because he doesn't feel supported in his community, in his school community. And again, they went to fact finding and found out that they could realize they could afford them. And we had a very similar situation. And so I find it very hard, like many other speakers said, Brian made the report. There's all this, we're getting a COLA extension and increase. And that is a cost of living wage is supposed to go to your employees. And the fact that you're just going to take away the tutorial stipend, which would actually decrease people's pay, was the only thing that you came back for, is almost like a slap in the face. Especially when this has been a year that everyone has been working exponentially harder, way more hours that are uncontracted to make sure that we are trying to meet the needs of so many students and get our job done in a time when we're dealing with mental health ourselves, so are our family and our communities. And so I just think that needs to be reciprocated and acknowledged in our pay when everything else is going up. I do want to state that if we do get a raise, and hopefully we do, that you also extend that to classified. It just came up to my attention that the classified school employee summer assistant program was not voted on again. And I'm not really sure why. This allows the school to have a matching grant for classified staff to get paid in the summer. And it doesn't really cost the district that much more money, but it allows our classified staff who get exponentially less than our certificated to have a livable wage even more so. And I agree with Gina and so many others that you can't have a new hiring staff make more than our current staff. So all of our current staff need to immediately make sure that they're getting paid at least what we're saying, that we would bring in new hires.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Next speaker is David Carey. David, I'm going to have to upgrade you to a panelist next time. Can you go ahead and update your Zoom account on your device? And I gotta promote you to a panelist. You with us, David? There you are.
I'm with you. Yes, thank you. So thank you, board members, President Nagel, and thank you, Jenny, for helping run this kind of three-meeting circus sometimes at these meetings. This last weekend, we hit kind of two major milestones. One of them was the lifting of the mask mandate for students inside and for most staff also. And the other one was, it was the 2-year anniversary of us going on distance learning. March 13th, 2020 was the last day of school we had just before spring break, with the message that we might not be coming back after spring break, and we didn't. And a lot, as you all know, a lot has happened. Dealing with the pandemic, dealing with the consolidation and so forth. And there's a sense of, now, are we getting back to normal? And in some ways we are. In some ways, if we're getting back to normal, it's a new normal. And a lot has happened while in K through 12 across the country, there was a real struggle to deal with distance learning. In a lot of areas, other areas in the economy, people found that doing remote work was really nice and very effective. And as a result of that, across the economy, it's really difficult to find people who are willing to work person to person to get a job done. But that's what you need for school. And it's going to be, that's the market that you're competing with. It's not just other school districts. It's the demand for people willing to work person to person in person. And you're going to have to find ways to make things work. It's a tough job, I know. So good luck with it. Thank you.
Thank you. David, could you go ahead and turn your video off, and I'll remove you from the room after this comment. Thank you. Last comment is, my name is Grace, and I've worked as a classified special education assistant for 5 years with the district. During that time, I've fallen in love with teaching and all that it entails. However, I continue to struggle with financial issues because of how much I make in my position. As classified employees, we pour our hearts and souls into this job, and we know that it's so much more than just the money. Despite the financial struggle, we continue to show up every day and make a difference in the lives of so many of our students. I am currently having to work a second job to make ends meet. I am also in school full-time, earning another degree with the knowledge that my staying in this position with its current wages is simply not sustainable. We should not have to seek second and third jobs in order to make a living wage when we are already putting so much of ourselves into ensuring our students are taken care of. There are other job opportunities available that offer higher wages, but I choose to stay with our district. However, if wages stay as they are, that will no longer be an option. This is not an issue of poor budgeting or financial mismanagement on the part of classified staff. Many of us are pinching pennies and still struggle to get by. We show our respect to the district by showing up despite not making enough money. That respect needs to be reflected back to us through actions, not words. We deserve to get paid fairly for our contributions to the district. And that was from Grace Kirk.
Okay, thank you everyone for your comments this evening. We are going to move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move that we approve the consent calendar. I'll second.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Angie. Questions from the board on the consent calendar? Questions from the public on the consent calendar? Do you have a question?
Leah, can you lower your hand and re-raise it if you want to talk on this item?
I just wanted to mention, thank you, Jenny, for changing the language in that one item about the art. Thank you.
You are so welcome. It doesn't look like she has to talk on this one.
Perfect. Okay. Roll call vote. Trustee Aiello.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Noe.
Aye.
Trustee Fernandez?
Aye.
Trustee Nagel votes aye. And we will now move to item number J, action on items heard in closed session. Julie?
I move to approve the recommendations of the administration in student discipline case number 721-22.
Second.
Second. Okay. We will now go to roll call vote. Trustee Ayala?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
Trustee Fernandez?
Aye.
Trustee Noe?
Aye.
Trustee Nagel votes aye. All right, we're going to move to discussion action on item A, business services. And we're going to talk about consideration of approval of the 2021-2022 second interim budget report. Do I have a motion to approve the second interim budget?
I move that we approve the second interim budget report.
Thank you, Jeannie. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Julie. Andrew, I believe the floor is yours, sir.
All right, well, good evening, and Jenny will be sharing the presentation here. My screen out of the way there. All right, so tonight I'm bringing before you the second interim report, which are the actual changes in the budget between first interim and January 31st. And then the revenue and expenditures are from February 1st through the end of June are estimated. And then we're going to be submitting the second interim report to the Sonoma County Office of Education for their review and their submission to the state with a positive certification. That means that we will be able to meet our current year expenditures for this current year, and then the expenditures and obligations in our 2 subsequent years. For second interim, we look at and analyze our staffing positions and make adjustments as necessary, and then make adjustments to the revenue based on the information that we have received and some additional revenues that have also come in between first and second interim. Then we have our adjusted expenditures to account that also have been adjusted and reflect those changes from projected to actuals, or both projected and actuals. All right. Next slide. So as we know, we are funded off of enrollment. So enrollment projections are always key to our interim reports and our budgeting. At first interim, we were budgeting, and we're based on our enrollment. Our enrollment is based off of the 1665 for this current year. Our average daily attendance was based at 94.9 or 92.9% average daily attendance at first interim. And remember that for this year, we're currently being funded at the higher rate from prior year, actually 2019-20 average daily attendance. And so we're at that higher rate of funding. But upon further evaluation between first and second interim, our average daily attendance has dropped a little bit. So we did take that adjustment for second interim, dropping it down to 92.4%. And then we carried that through to our out years. So you see where those changes are happening for second interim, where we're dropping our average daily attendance a little bit. Our enrollment, we did keep at where we were at first interim, which is still optimistic in the hopes that everybody that we projected will show up from our feeder districts in our 9th grade will actually come through. All right, next slide. And because just wanted to look at our local control funding form of revenue, which is based off of enrollment and our average daily attendance. You see for 21-22, our current enrollment was 1665, again, based on funding being funded at that higher rate from 1920. Our ADA funding is at 19,500, or excuse me, 19.5 million. And then if we look at a 0% COLA and then being funded for 22-23 at the current year attendance, because our next year's attendance is going to be higher than prior year, we would drop down almost $900,000. And although for the January governor's budget proposal, that 5.33% COLA that is being proposed by the governor, still to be enacted, actually gives us funding up to about where we are funded today in our current year funding. So we're only gaining with that 5.33% funding year over year about $48,000. So we're basically have a zero increase to our LCFF just by a few dollars. And within that LCF funding is that special education property tax that's passed through to us from Sonoma County. So that's part of that LCFF funding formula. All right, so next slide. As we look at our revenues from first interim to second interim, we see that a little bit of increase in our local control funding formula. Again, it's the special education property tax pass-through, so there was a little increase in there. Our federal revenue changed a little bit because of the way that the SMAL, which is the school-based medical administrative activities funding, where you're able to build back some special education services and get funded on that. That changed from federal revenue to local revenue. There were some accounting rule changes in there, so that's just shifted. Additionally, from first interim to second interim, we've received the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant, which is for professional development, and those funds need to be spent by June 2026, and that was $450,000. And then additionally, for our state or the local revenue, you know, the swapping of the SMAL to state, then we have our E-rate funding that was also received for $173,000 that's going to pay for some technology, student hotspots, computers for staff and students. So we've seen an increase in our local, or in our total revenues of $752,000. All right, next slide. For our expenditures from first to second interim, we've had an increase of $1 million, and that was to help fund some of our additional programs. We added a roving sub at West County High that has helped with the sub shortage that we have. Now we have someone that reports to work every day. And then additionally, we've had the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. So those funds have been budgeted into professional development for all staff and to additional timesheet work that might need to be done, along with conferences or bringing services in to provide professional development. So that would be in your services budget. Then we look at our salaries for our classified. We've had some additional higher costs or additional overtime or such as needed for custodians and getting those coded. And then our employee benefits adjust along with your salaries. So that's what kind of makes up what that additional $1 million is. And then between first and second interim, we did have a change where that ADA or average daily attendance transferred to SCO for students attending their programs, where we need to pay them average daily attendance that we receive that's passed through back to them. Next slide. And as we look at our general fund from first to second interim, we've our revenues, you know, we've had an increase in our revenues, also had an increase to our expenditures. So our deficit spending also increased to fund the programs that were coming through that had to hit the unrestricted or had to hit the general fund. Our transfers in and out, which go to support our routine restricted maintenance, which is a legal requirement that we need to fund due to our state building funds being funded to have buildings built by the state. And then additionally, the transfers out to help support the cafeteria fund and their operations. So we continue, those remain the same. So our ending fund balance, as it shows, did decrease some, and we continue to work on those. So that's where we're at right now, about $2 million net decrease to the fund balance. All right, next slide. This here, we're just looking at where we were from the beginning fund balance, remaining $5 million, taking out that additional decrease at where we overspent. Our expenses are higher than our income by the $2 million, so decreasing in our ending fund balance at $3 million. And of course, the components of our ending fund balance is our revolving cash fund of $9,000. The prepaid expenses, we needed to book a prepaid expense for this year that was discovered between first and second interim. And we have booked that. So for next year, we'll still remain at $7,955 as there's a 3-year contract that has been entered into for a computer service for curriculum. So next year will be that last payment on that. So we'll have that in when we look at budget adoption. A reserve for economic uncertainties that we need to set aside at least 3%. Our restricted fund balance, which comes from carryover and such from our COVID funds or our supplemental funds as well. So you see those as components of your ending fund balance because those are restricted reserves. And then additionally, we had that higher LCFF revenue that was coming in because we were funded at the higher enrollment ADA from 1920. That additional money this year was set aside to help with the cliff that is going to be happening next year, where we're going to where we were going to be funded at a lower rate, but that extra COLA proposed is helping us kind of maintain where we're at revenue-wise this year. So we had to help fund some of those additional programs. We used some of those funds, $150,000. So our unappropriated ending fund balance is basically $15. So we have used all allowable funds this year that we can for this year's program. All right, so next slide. So with every interim report, we have a multi-year projection. And the first column is 21-22, then we have our 2 out years, 22-23, and then 23-24. As you see, our net change in ending fund balance, we continue to deficit spend this year and next year, but with projections and the reductions and expenditure changes that have taken place, that has helped, and the additional COLAs that have been proposed have helped our 23-24 year to come out of deficit spending as projected right now. So all the assumptions that we have now, that's where we're looking at. Continuing to have a positive ending fund balance, continuing to meet our minimum reserve, and have some additional funds left over to help fund the next year. So that's what makes us be able to continue to have a positive certification at this second interim period. Next slide. So as we look at the budget cycle, again, we continue to have our monthly budget revision approvals that we bring to you every month. We had our second interim report tonight. And as we work through the spring, we'll work on our budget development process, our LCAP stakeholder input. And then in May, we'll have the final opportunity where the governor puts out his proposals and any new assumptions that may change some of the assumptions that we're building off right now. And then in June, June 8th, we'll have the board meeting for our public hearing on the budget and LCAP. And then June 22nd, we have our board meeting and the adoption of the LCAP and budget at June 22nd for our next school year. Next slide. And then we just have some further budget thoughts that I always want to bring before you, just things to keep on thinking about as our declining enrollment or where we're at in enrollment, how that impacts our budget. Any structural deficits that might be happening and how we address those in either current year or those out years that are in our multi-year projections. We have the continued increases to operational costs related to STRS, PERS, utilities, general cost of goods and services. Again, just that inflation that just hits us all, no matter in our personal pockets or in our operational pockets of where we work. We'll need to look at some expenditure reductions if those are needed. State budget, what's going to come out with the governor's revise? Is it going to be higher COLAs? Is it, what's going to happen? All those different things that may come out that we might be able to adjust our budget on to have a better outlook. And then our legislative approval of those budgets, and then any impact that they may have on our budget that we'll need to make revisions for. And then our labor partner negotiations, which we're in the midst of. So those will have an impact to the budget. And then a special education program transfers and the impact that that's going to have on our budget moving forward. So those are just some thoughts and things to consider. So at this time, I'm going to take any questions, and that's where we're at with second interim with our positive certification for second interim.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Questions from the board for Andrew before we take questions from the public? All right. Not seeing any questions from the board. I'll open it up for comments from the public regarding the second interim budget. If you'd like to ask questions or make comment on the second interim budget, now the time would be to raise your hand so that Jenny can see you and call on you, and we can log your questions.
Okay, it looks like you have 2 comments right now, but do we want to give it a few more seconds?
Sure, we'll give it 30 more seconds.
Ollie oxen free.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. I'm doing a minute timer on this, so we've got about 30 more seconds.
Okay. All right, staying pretty steady at 5, so let's go ahead and cap it there.
Would you like to change the time from 2 to 3, or how would you like to handle that?
I think we're going to keep it at 2 minutes tonight for consistency purposes. So
Copy that. I'm going to bring all 5 of you in the room, starting with Brian Miller, Emily, I don't know how to say your last name, David, Diane Marie, and Leah Woody. Brian, you have the floor, and I'll follow it up with the clock behind you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. My first question was about that structural deficit bullet point. If the deficit spending projected next year is structural, what the size of that is. My second is, the budget has no vision because there's no raises in it. It's the same problem that we've had for quite some time. When you budget 0% for teachers, it's frustrating to see it happening again and again, but it's not unexpected because essentially, the board, you're tasked with seeing past literally an entire system of school financing that is stacked against teachers. An entire system of financing that's effectively, if not intentionally, set up to depress wages. I mean, these projected, that 3-year out number is, we know it's intentionally inaccurate. It's designed to be inaccurate. And so I would just encourage you to think again about that idea of budgeting teachers into your projections, because then you give district leadership the plan. Like when you budget raises, then district leadership knows what you're prioritizing and they can act and they can budget accordingly. This second interim budget has really none of that. And then, you can address the issues that a lot of people raised earlier that I thought was really impressive, and I echo all their sentiments. One thing that wasn't said, and I'll say it in my last 20 seconds, actually teacher salaries in Sonoma County last year increased 5.07%. Ours increased 1.19%, nearly 4% less than the county average. The state increased by 1.57%. It just goes to show we're just not doing enough.
Thank you, Brian. Next speaker is Emily.
Thank you, Jenny. This is Emily Locka. I'm one of the agriculture teachers and the advisors here at West County High School.
Brian, sorry, I'm trying to mute you. I'm having a problem with my mouse. Let me stop you really quick, Emily. I'm sorry. I'm having all kinds of technical there. Will you please start over?
Yeah, absolutely. This is Emily Locka, one of the agriculture teachers and FFA advisors at West County High School. Previously was Emily Delaney. And I just wanted to speak, kind of echoing what Brian just said, really kind of hoping and wish that there was a multi-year raise in the budget update tonight. Us as teachers, of course, put in a lot of time in effort into our jobs, things that we go above and beyond on. I know all of my colleagues here do. Specifically in the ag program, we work extra hard to find creative funding for our program. I'm still at school tonight on about hour 13 of work today because we had our FFA Tri-Tip fundraiser tonight to help fund our students the opportunity to go to a state leadership contest and an experience that they earned their way to. We apply for our own grant funding and do a lot of extra work that goes into that. And I know that we get paid an extra stipend as ag teachers, but I'll be honest and say my stipend funds, if I'm counting by the hour, were used up a few months ago, and we still have to work every day to make our programs run. We put in so much time and so much effort because we love our jobs, but it's really hard to love your job when it's so difficult to afford to live here. As a young person and a newer teacher, it's extra hard. And so I really urge the board to reconsider and look at this budget update more in depth, work hard in negotiations with our unions to add a multi-year raise in our budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is David.
Thank you. I just have, I guess, one question, and that is regarding a subject that Jolene Johnson raised earlier, and that's the way to augment and supplement classified employees' pay during the summer by getting some special funding from the state. And there's a question about, did the district decide not to apply for those funds? And how is that reflected in these budget numbers that we're seeing here tonight? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Diane Marie.
Hi, this is Diane Marie, and I'm a retired kindergarten teacher. And I'm just putting in a request for, I know that you're working to do some support for the students with the mental health issues that is affecting all the students everywhere. So I would put in a request that you would explore with the extra funding. I know you're going, what extra funding, but for the students, that was given for the students to really help them get through this trauma, that maybe perhaps you could bring in the EFT, emotional freedom technique, that when Sandy Hook shootings happened, there was a number of grammar schools and high schools that brought in programs throughout each of the classes that the teachers were trained with that was really, really effective and helpful. So, and they weren't the only high school or grammar schools that did it. So I just request that. And also that a lot of the drop in enrollment, I know for a fact, a lot of parents did not want the masking. So they're homeschooling or creating their own schools. So I'm just thinking that if the masks are gone and there's support for the mental health of the students and they're not put down because they're not got an injection, then perhaps you would just get some more students back. So that's all I would say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Last speaker is Leah Woody. You have the floor.
Yes, hello. Leah Woody. I am college and career coordinator at West County High School. And I would, I had my hand raised, as everybody knows. I do, on this behalf, I just want to mention the special education budget and just the funding, the enormous amount of funding that has come down the pike and that I've watched during a consolidation, and just me kind of like focusing on my job and seniors and making sure that they have a pathway and they're going to land where they want to land, because I love my job. I have worked in this field for many, many years, and I work at a pay that is, I could at this point go somewhere else and easily get a job with a much better pay. But I don't, because I love this community. This is my community. I am here, and I have enjoyed every moment with the students at West County High. But with that said, take a look, please, board, because it's coming in so fast. All the grant funding, utilize the staff. I volunteered for summer school 2 summers as a college and career advisor to make sure that students landed where they meant to land. And I was told by the district, yeah, you're not really needed. So instead, I just did it for free because I love what I get to do. And I love our students. We have an amazing community. Let's go. Let's pick it up. Let's utilize our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. And that was your last comment.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments regarding the second interim budget. Bringing it back to the board, any clarifications needed or comments, questions before we vote?
Did we want to answer any of the questions or let them reach out to Andrew separately?
I'm looking at the questions, and I think that they're probably be better served reaching out to Andrew directly for, because I think they're going to kind of delve into some areas that would be more bigger than just a simple answer to a question. Angie, you had a question.
I was just going to thank Andrew for taking the time to go over some things this afternoon and just for doing such a great job. I appreciate you.
I agree with you 100%, Angie. We're working through this, and he's doing a good job of kind of helping everybody work through this and get the budget right and help us to get to where we need to go. Anybody else before we vote? Julie, Kelly, anything? Andrew, anything you want to add? Is there any quick answers you could give to the questions you heard? But to me, they all kind of seem like they're bigger topic questions.
Yeah, no, I think you're correct, Patrick, and happy to speak with anybody that has in-depth questions that we need to go over, that can go over. But yeah, thank you for your thoughts towards me. Thank you.
No problem, buddy. Okay, let's go ahead and roll call vote here for the second interim budget. We will start with Trustee Fernandez.
Aye.
Trustee Aiello.
Aye.
Trustee Noe.
Aye.
Who's left? Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Sorry, Trustee Nagel votes aye. All right, that motion carries. We will now move on to facilities maintenance and technology. Item number 1 is consideration of approval of update to the district COVID safety plan. Can I hear a motion, please?
Do we first want to see if there's any update?
I think there is an update.
Okay.
There's a big one.
So move.
Thank you, Jeannie.
I'll second.
Thank you, Angie. And are we turning over to you? Okay. All right, Jenny. COVID safety plan update.
Hi, everyone. So the update is just kind of follow up from our last board meeting. At the last board meeting, our county public health hadn't yet aligned with the state. They have since aligned with the state. We have you guys authorized us to move forward with aligning with whatever happened. So we did that as of this past Monday. Students were allowed to voluntarily wear their masks or choose if they wanted to. Staff that are not vaccinated or not up to date with their boosters are required to continue to mask and to test once a week. That is the update, and we are in the process of updating our COVID plan in written form, but we've been adopting all of the updates as they come at each board meeting. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Jenny, thank you so much. Is there questions from the board for Jenny? I know that we had kind of talked about some maybe possibilities last time and what we, in advance, but now that those things have actually come to pass, we are now transitioning from one place to another with our COVID safety plan. Any questions about where we are, what we're doing for Jenny before I open it to the public? Perfect. Questions regarding our new updates to the COVID plan from the community? This would be the time to raise your hand. All right, let's see one.
I'm doing my 30-second clock here.
Okay. And Ms. Sasha Rose, I'm going to take a preemptive guess. If you're going to discuss going back to in-person meetings, that's actually the next item on the agenda. If you have something else, by all means, please stay with your hand up. But if I know that you have brought up in-person meetings in the past, so I just want to make sure that if we're doing that, that's actually the next one. If I'm wrong, so be it. I think that's the only comment.
Just one commenter, and I'm going to go ahead and bring Sasha in.
Perfect.
Sasha, you have the floor.
Hi, so yeah, this is about the update for the COVID safety protocols. And 20 years ago, when I worked for West Sonoma County Union High School District, advocating for the teens, so they could find their pathway into the community to make a meaningful contribution, I could have never imagined that the school and the community would participate in those protocols that we've seen in the last 2 years that have really harmed our teens. I appreciate that the mask mandate is being shifted. I don't see any reason to discriminate against staff who haven't had an experimental vaccine that's under emergency use. And we see these bills coming down. We see Gavin Newsom's smarter plan. He's hoping for more shots, more masks, more social distancing. We see these bills in the legislature that are coming down and really are looking to the school to do your job, which is to advocate for our students' well-being in the face of state mandates if they're illegal or wrong, and to be able to assert your right to do that, because that is your role for the students. You're not medical professionals. You're never what I thought I would see, these kind of clinics on the school. It's such a huge overstep of the role of the school. And maybe I'm the lone wolf here in this meeting, but there are more and more parents that I'm talking to in the community that are seeing that after 2 years, this is wrong. We need to tend to what our teens need at this time. And they're in fear. A lot of them don't want to take off their masks because they don't understand that it's okay for them to breathe. They haven't seen the 40 plus studies from PubMed showing that masks don't work. So what is the school doing to support the students to be empowered, to be healthy, and to get out of this fear so they can get on with their lives and their mental health can hopefully begin to heal from this time?
Thank you for your comment.
Okay. We are going to take a vote. Let's see. We are here. So Trustee Fernandez.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Noe.
Aye.
Trustee Allo.
Aye.
Trustee Nagel votes aye. That motion is passed. We'll move on to item number 2, discussion and action on location for the April 13th, 2022 board meeting. Can I hear a motion for this, please?
I move that we move to in-person meeting at our next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Julie with a second. Okay. Board for discussion. Questions, clarification about meeting in person starting on April 13th. Anyone have questions? Yes, Julie.
I think she's frozen.
She does look frozen.
It's like the perfect frozen like pose.
I just want to clarify with everyone that there's no current health order preventing us from coming back with any kind of limitations. Masks would be strongly recommended, but voluntarily to anyone, unless the board so chose to implement their own policies. I want to be very clear, we are not in a position at this time to do a simultaneous Zoom or YouTube. That could change. It's a really interesting time of year for us as we close the end of the year. We're gearing up for a lot of our summer projects, and we have a lot of procurement and things we're getting ready for. And so I don't want to overwhelm. I'd rather not overpromise and underdeliver. So right now, I just don't feel confident that we will be able to do in-person simulcast. But we did purchase the translation devices, and Mia has issued a request for recruit meant for translation services. So we are hopeful that we'll have those devices in hand for the April 13th meeting. Happy to answer questions.
Perfect.
You answered all of mine.
Yeah.
Julie, before you froze like this, would you like to ask your question, ma'am?
You're muted.
Oh, you're muted. It's a great story, but you're muted. We can't hear you.
I'm muted.
I said everybody was frozen and I didn't hear one word of that discussion.
Well, basically what I'll paraphrase for Jenny. Jenny was saying that at this time, we don't have the ability to simulcast so for this meeting at least. And we do have translation devices available, hopefully by this meeting, if not the next meeting. And that we're under no requirements, restrictions from the county and or state in holding our meetings. Did I get that right, Jim? Perfect.
Okay, I just wanted to ask where we would meet.
I believe we're talking about the library on the West County campus. Is that correct? Okay. Any other questions?
Can I clarify, are we looking at the library at the West County campus indefinitely, or are we going to go back and forth between campuses right now? Because we pretty much have shut down parts and pieces of the Forestville campus, and it would be somewhat laborious for us to go back and forth. We lack staff at that site due to consolidation.
No, I was under the impression we were just talking about on the West County campus, but for now, but definitely this meeting. Yes, Angie.
I was just curious what the majority of other boards are doing in the area.
What I have seen, I'm not an expert, but what I have seen is that most have returned to in-person meetings at the beginning of the month. I know that, and then for some, they have the ability, like they have the public broadcasting that allows the TV to be broadcast, the meetings to be broadcast on television. But that's not something that they're doing. That's something that the local TV, like for instance, in Roanoke Park or in Santa Rosa, that's being broadcast on public access television, but we obviously don't have access to that.
Yeah, well, they have the chambers, like they use
Correct.
the city council chambers that is set up for.
Correct. But we also don't have public access television here either. So,
but it's easier because they already have that all set up, whereas we don't have, Sebastopol City does not have official chambers. Although, they don't. How are they broadcasting? I just wonder if there's a way
to broadcast it live. They broadcast it live and then they replay it. Santa Rosa City Schools, but they're not doing like live interaction.
Well, that's what we talked about last time, Jenny. Like, could we record it and then post it after the fact?
That's where I'm not confident right now. I'm just not confident in our workload right now to be able to focus. If that's a priority of the board, I will certainly do my best effort.
Well, Well, maybe that's something we can work towards.
I'm not dead stuck on it for the next meeting. If we can talk about it in subsequent meetings, I think we're just talking about just this next meeting, and then we can talk about subsequent meetings after that.
This question came up today. I was on a California School Boards Association Northern California meeting, and there was about 40 people on it. And somebody asked the question about who's meeting in person. 90% of everyone is going back to in-person meetings. Those that can are still providing some sort of broadcasting service. Most are not. Most don't have that capability. Just thought I'd put my 3 cents in for what I heard today.
I appreciate that. That sounds great. Okay, open up for public comment, questions on this topic.
Can I make one more comment before you take public comment?
Yes,
If you guys move forward with moving back to in-person, this item will fall off the board agenda. This is a requirement of what we're currently doing. So I just want to make sure that's clear. If we do want to have future conversations about how the board meetings function, we would have to add that. We would add that to the agenda. So it's just more of a comment.
But the COVID safety plan stays on the agenda, right? That's an ongoing item. And I think Angie has still, Angie, did you have a question? Because you had your hand up for a while. Are you good? Okay.
I do see 4 comments for in-person. For the next board meeting. So let's go ahead and cut it off there.
With 4.
Yep.
First speaker, Julie, Deanna, Lily, then Sasha. Julie, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. It's Julie McClellan, librarian. Glad to hear that possibly you'd be back in the library. I'm excited about that. I was going to ask a question earlier. I would also make a play for using the Forestville campus because it's simply such a much bigger room if there's still any consideration about spacing and room to use that, even if that takes a little bit of effort. My other concern is to be sure and look at the calendar for moving into May for meetings there, that you're not, the room is going to be set up for AP testing certain days, and that takes a lot of setup. So there might need to be some looking at the meeting dates crosshatched with the AP testing dates so that's not a difficulty for setting up the room. My other question is, would there be a possibility of either Randy Hall or Casey Jones being able to maybe step in and help you guys with some recording, even if it was sound and not video? That might be helping the community to be able to listen in for the people that couldn't get there that night, whether they have jobs or other things happening. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Deanna.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm very disappointed how many parents didn't call in tonight, and it's amazing how many certified and credentialed teachers and staff called in. But I think that it's really unfortunate that before you went to public comment on this, first of all, Patrick Nagel, you interrupted the last speaker, Sasha, and assumed you knew what she was going to comment about. And that was almost the rudest thing I've ever seen and heard. I'm pretty sure it might even be a Brown Act violation. You're not allowed to respond. And I highly doubt you're allowed to respond or comment on somebody before they even comment. Second of all, you guys are elected officials. You're there in your trustee district. You are either appointed or most likely voted in, unfortunately, and you need to do your job. You need to be in person. Our teachers are in person. Our principals are in person. Parents work their butts off. We're all in person. We're at sports. People are at concerts. You're at wineries. Get in person. We don't need to sit here as parents and listen to where you're going to go and, I don't know if we have technical difficulties and all that. That's irrelevant. Do your job, be in person, and then you guys can go behind closed doors and decide where you're going to go, how much it's going to cost, get all your tech stuff in place. But you've been doing in-person meetings for 20 or 30 years before this, and now you got stuck in this habit of doing Zooms and not leaving your house. But elected officials need to be in person. School boards, board of supervisors, everyone. The emergency order has ended. Our teachers are in classrooms with 30 kids starting the week after next with no masks. I'm pretty sure you guys can accommodate a few people in a library. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Lily.
Hi, this is Lily Medshammer, and I just wanted to comment that, as a big part of me is sad to see it go on Zoom, because it is nice to come home after, or go off Zoom, excuse me, because it is nice to come home after work and to be able to tune into the entire meeting. But I do understand the reason for it to be in person. I would urge you guys to find a way to film the board meeting. It can be as simple as an iPhone in the corner that just gets published and uploaded to the YouTube channel. I think it's really important to have a public record of our governing bodies' public meetings. And I think it would be great if the district did that instead of community members deciding to do it on their own. I think it would be nice if it came from within. And that is my comment. I would like to be sure that that these meetings get published. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker, Sasha, you have the floor.
Hi, it's Sasha Rose again, and you know that I'm urging you to return to in-person meetings, and I would also ask for you to be transparent about whether you're going to discriminate against parents who have chosen not to get a medical procedure and not allow them at the board meetings. You are public officials. This is our children go to this school, and the school and the community participated in, I can't imagine that is legal to not let parents come to a board meeting. You have no idea what their medical history is. You have no idea their reason for choosing not to do that. And your compliance with this huge push for this experimental vaccination has been disheartening, to say the least. You need to respect families' choice around what they need to do for their bodies, what they need to do for their students' bodies, and not create a climate where students are bullied and made to feel wrong and made to feel that they're the cause of a pandemic and made to feel all of these things that are against what you teach. You teach tolerance, you teach to be inclusive. This is going directly against what the school is supposed to be doing for our teens, to isolate a minority population for a choice that they have made. Unless you're a doctor, unless you have intimate knowledge of families' reasons for choosing, including your teachers, which I'm surprised that they're not standing up for their own medical choice around this. I urge you not to exclude any parent from a board meeting, regardless. We should not be showing papers to get into a school meeting to have our voices heard. You should not know parents' medical history for them to have a voice in a school meeting. It's absolutely inappropriate and illegal as far as I know. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay. Bringing it back to the board. Any clarifying comments or questions? Yes, Kelly.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, I do feel like it's very important that we figure out the space around being able to tape the meetings and post them after the fact. I do think it's a good way for people to be able to access information. And I would say that too, just around language access, that I know when we do these for work, we record the English version and the Spanish version. So I think that would be really important as well to think about how we record and post both. And I also just hope that, I know that we will have the standing item around COVID protocols, and just to remind us that, there are residents in our community that have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. We're not hearing their voices tonight, and that's why a lot of these safety measures have been put in place. It is public health, and it does help our residents, especially those who often don't have a voice and aren't present in these conversations. And if you look at the data around who has been impacted the most from COVID, it is our BIPOC communities. And I just feel I need to acknowledge that tonight as an important reason that we've had a lot of these safety measures in place.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Can I respond?
Yes.
I have to advocate for myself and my IT department of 3. I attend the board meetings and usually sit with the board for presentations. During Zoom, I'm able to kind of do the whole thing in the background, sometimes a little chaotic and sometimes with significant or little technical difficulties. I would love to have a team of staff that could take on the request of broadcasting and translating and posting all of this stuff. But they're already carrying a pretty large load. So if we want to do that, I suggest that we either hire a professional company to do it or really see who else in the world, because I know Lily mentioned just record it with an iPhone in the corner, but we still have a responsibility to then make it translatable. And we're talking, we're not a video production studio. Yes, we have a teacher who is a video production. I promise not to put him on blast last board meeting and offer his or his students services. But this is not a small undertaking for a small district. And I would be remiss if I didn't speak up and just make that very clear. If this is a priority, I certainly will do my best to research it and figure out something, but this is not my wheelhouse.
No, I appreciate that, Jenny. And kind of what I'm thinking is there's a goal and maybe out into the future, and then there's what we're voting on here, which is where we're having the meeting next in 3 weeks. So maybe we bring it back as an agenda item, an agenda setting to talk about those types of logistics on how to do that. But so for me, I mean, it would be great if we could do a million things, but we can only do what we can do, and we have to look at the cost associated and the cost waste benefit analysis personally. So for me, we can start doing some research and we can start talking about it, and we can put it on the agenda to talk about how to make that happen in the future. But for tonight, we're talking about April 13th, and we're not anywhere near ready to do that on April 13th, is what I'm hearing you say. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Thank you.
We've ordered the translation devices. We will be able to offer translation in person. That is what we can commit to today.
Got it. One step at a time, and we'll get there. Anything else before we vote? Anyone?
I just wanted to say, Patrick, that my motion, I think, was pretty clear that we were, I said I moved that we start meeting back in person at the next meeting. That was all I said. It was nothing about any other conditions, stipulations, anything.
Perfect. And Jeannie, do me a favor and just make a note when we're next agenda setting that we put it on the agenda to have a discussion about, meeting logistics and whatnot. So we can actually have a more in-depth conversation. With that, I think we're ready to vote. I'm not looking around. I don't see any more hands. So we'll vote. Trustee Fernandez.
Aye.
Trustee Aiello.
Aye.
Trustee Noe.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
And Trustee Nagel votes aye. Item number 3, consideration of approval of contract with Garland Company for purchase of roofing material for district-wide roofing project pursuant to California Multiple Award Schedule contract number 4-20-56-0006B as in Bravo. Do I hear a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Angie. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Jeannie. With that, I will turn it over to you, Jeannie.
So we're moving forward with some of our deferred maintenance projects that we talked about earlier in the school year. Because of the supply chain demand and the difficulties with procuring materials, we were working with our consultants and determined that we probably wouldn't have the materials in time if we waited for the full bidding process to complete. So we worked with legal counsel, Garland, and our architect to work on a piggyback or a CMAS contract. It's called CMAS, to procure the materials. And this will allow us to get them in time for summer construction. And I say hopefully, because it doesn't guarantee that they'll be here. It just certainly starts that clock. We'll also struggle with other issues with contractors' availability. We're currently out to bid for all of these projects. So I hope to bring back consideration of award for those roofs at the April 13th board meeting in person. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Questions for Jenny? Julie, is that a sign or were you just scratching? Okay, perfect. I'm trying to do better looking at everyone. It's not always easy. Okay, my question, Jenny, is I'm sure as we put this out the bid and we don't have an actual contractor, we do know the supplies we need, right? We were able to kind of get a subsection.
Yes. So basically what we did was our architect work with our consultant. They reviewed the big package and determined the quantities that they would need for all of the roofs. We always order a little excess. This is not all of the roofing material. This is the main roofing material. Right. There will be additional materials that the contractors have to procure, but those are easier to get. It just depends. So yes, we did work with our contractor.
Thank you.
Or our consultant, sorry.
At this time, I'd like to open up to the public for questions and comment. If you would like to comment on this, please raise your hand. And
I've got one commenter.
Okay.
Julie, I'm going to start the clock right behind you. You have the floor.
Great, thank you. Having worked at the El Molino campus, I know that there's some roofing that needs to be done on the building on the quad. I have no sense of north, south, east, or west. Above Lana McNamara's old room.
That's the C building.
Okay, C building. So I guess my question is there any of this roofing that's going to be happening over at the El Molino campus during this to continue to stop the continued huge leaks in that building? Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
And to answer Julie's question, I did a roofing board report for you guys. What feels like 2 or 3 board meetings ago, and it gave you a 3-year multi-year roofing plan for all of the priority identified roofs. The C building is a priority identified roof. It is DSA required, so we're currently working with our architects. Our architect, you did authorize their contract to proceed forward with that project, but since it's DSA along with the skylights that we're working on for the main building, both of those are DSA. Board did approve us hiring the architect and working with them and moving forward those projects. They're currently in the design phase, and we do not anticipate bidding those until probably fall, given that they're not, that C building is not used a ton. We feel like we would be able to roof during the school year, and we would coordinate the skylights, just talking about that while I have you all here, during either a winter or spring break. Perfect. Hopefully before rain.
That would be great. Thank you, Jenny. Thanks for the update. Any questions from the board before we vote? Don't see any. Let's roll call vote. Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Fernandez.
Aye.
Trustee Noe.
Aye.
Trustee Aiello.
Aye.
Trustee Nagel votes aye. Moving on to our last item of the evening. Under Education Services, discussion of AG grant, and this is just a discussion. So this is no motion required. And I believe we're going to turn it over to you, Eric, for a presentation.
Yes, and Jeannie, great job on getting that up. Real quick, before I start on that, I've sort of been involved for about 2 weeks now. I've met a lot of people, and everyone I meet cares, and that's impressive to me. I've met each of you board members, and I know how much you care about the school district, the kids, And I know you're working hard behind the scenes. I know that this has been a difficult time, and I want to appreciate you for doing a difficult job at this time. And everyone else I've met who's been very welcoming, I appreciate that. Okay, ADG Completion Improvement Grant. So we were awarded a certain amount, around $280,000 to work on helping students complete their ADG requirements for preparation to go on to college. And we were, this is a one-time grant. We have several years suspended, and we have to create a plan that will assist kids in a variety of ways. You can see that there's some different pieces to it. There's access grant. If you had less than 67% of your students who were completing their A through G requirements, that was the case with West County. And so we've received funds in that area. If you had a success grant, obviously you weren't in the access grant. And that would be for school districts completing with a higher than 67% A through G completion rate. So you either got one or the other. We have money coming to us in the access grant. And then the other one is the learning loss mitigation portion. And that would be to try and assist students in a way that they could do makeup and, retake classes to improve their grades in those courses. Next slide, please. So our, the access grant, as you can see here, we had 51% of the seniors were on track to meet the A through G, which made us eligible. And in that case, we've been awarded $207,766 to work on helping kids complete. It's really about completion. And then we also got part of the mitigation grant, and that's giving the kids the opportunity to do makeup. And so the mitigation grant is $77,891. And makeup can be in the form of credit recovery, which is something that we already offer, but we're considering making it a formal part of the school day. And then JC courses, there's some online platforms, and there's a thing called UC Scout, which is sort of an independent study program, but takes a teacher on campus to coordinate that. So next slide. So these are the requirements for the A through G plan. How the funds received under this section will increase or improve services for unduplicated pupils in the A through G eligibility. So while this doesn't only target unduplicated pupils, it's a significant part of what they want us to do. 2, the number of pupils who receive D, F, or fail in the spring of 2020 or in the 21-22 school year identified for opportunities to retake A through G courses. 3, how the plan and describe services supplement, but do not replace or supplant services in the local control accountability plan. And then a description of the extent to which all pupils within the LEA, and again, particularly the unduplicated pupils, will have access to A through G courses approved by the University of California. Jeannie? Thank you for your help. So these are the different avenues, different ways that you can use the money: professional development, support, in this case, in support, developing comprehensive advising plans, and other student support such as tutoring, course taking, and college counseling. Expanding access to A through G, including course development and review, and incorporating courses into local graduation requirements. So that might be a thing that I don't know that that's something we would recommend, that you add the number of courses to students' already required load, but maybe offer more A through G classes so they have more opportunities. And then the last part here on fees: subsidized student test fees including AP test fees for low-income students, foster youth, and English learners. Again, with a focus, but not only a focus on the students who are unduplicated pupil count. Okay, draft plan. We intend to use the funds allocated for A through G access to increase the number of unduplicated pupils who are A through G eligible by increasing the number of unduplicated students in AP classes and providing supports. So helping them get into those classes and then helping them be successful. Tutoring, counseling, those kind of things. Increasing opportunities for enrollment. So expanding opportunities to enroll in those classes. It might be increasing the number of sections. Andrew and I had a little bit of a discussion about that, and we've had a nice discussion with the admin at West County High. Increasing tutoring opportunities for students, individualized yearly counseling service for unduplicated pupils. So finding a way to connect them with an adult that would help counsel them and set up goals, and then assist them in reaching those goals. And then ongoing data analysis, being able to figure out who needs the help the most, and then targeting the help for them. And under the mitigation, we would be looking at increasing the availability of A through G credit recovery opportunities during the school day at the comprehensive high school credit recovery section. Increasing tutoring opportunities for students. And again, the last two here are similar: individualized yearly counseling services for unduplicated pupils and ongoing data analysis. Those two things kind of fit on both of those plans. So that's the plan. I would say kind of an overview. I'm working with, in particularly, Rachel and Danny, the administrators over at West County, to develop the plan. And we'll also work with Andrew, because part of the plan will be that we have to show how much money each of the different action items will cost, so that we show how we're spending this money wisely. So that's the overview. Happy to take any questions or discussion on it from the board.
Yes, Julie.
I'd just like to know if there was a plan to include teachers in decisions about how this money is spent and the professional development they will be participating in.
It's a great question. I had a week to get this done, so we didn't include the teachers yet. But thank you for that question, and we will make sure that teachers are included in this overall plan that I hope to bring back to you on April 13th.
Okay, other questions regarding this grant usage discussion? Looking around, don't see any. Public comments, public questions on the utilization of this grant.
You've got one hand raised.
Okay.
Carmen, or a couple of hands, but maybe not. Yes, you do. Sorry.
We are going. Okay, we got two. Let's stop it
Carmen
there.
and then Leah Woody. Carmen, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. This is Carmen Sinajani. Just a quick comment as you're developing your plan. I think the mentoring program that Mr. Jones has been using in band is a good idea for this particular thing. Yes, tutoring is good, but to encourage more students to take the AP classes, you could have someone that just took the class the year prior mentor a student going into it. So they may not necessarily want to be tutored, but just have a better understanding of tips and things like that, and have someone to check in that's a peer on them every now and again and make sure that they're taking the steps needed to be successful in that class. So that's it.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Leah. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Oh. Wait, let me allow you to talk first. Now you can unmute yourself, Leah.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, Leah Woody, College and Career Coordinator at West County High School. And I just wanted to mention, thank you for this. This is wonderful. I'm excited about it, of course. The A through G Access Grant, specifically, I just wanted to, I would love to have a further conversation regarding everything listed under that, including SRJC courses and college readiness, and really starting from the ground up, from freshmen and career interest and exploration and all of that, because this is what I do for our students in my job. So it's close to my heart. And also I wanted to just remind the board that Sonoma State University, we've had a long-standing relationship, free service for this exact thing, and mentoring and coming on campus and sitting one-on-one with our students and mentoring them in terms of college readiness and career readiness. And I just wanted to remind the board about that. And we have another program that also is free to us. So I'd like to speak more, Mr. Hopes, on this, and with admin, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, everyone. Last chance from the board, comments, questions? All right, with that, this is the end of our meeting. We will adjourn until April 13th. Everyone have a good night.